You have no clue how many high-status people are observing your path right now. And here's the part that's going to mess with you a little. They are impressed, not confused, not indifferent, impressed. Right now, somewhere, you're not thinking about someone with real influence, real reach, real weight in a room is talking about you. Not your name necessarily, your energy, your precious energy, your trajectory, the way you have been moving lately. Like a high status people are watching you. And the wild part is you are the only person in this whole equation who still thinks you're invisible. Okay, let's just sit in that for a second, because I need you to actually feel it instead of just hearing it. You walk into rooms thinking you are background noise. Another face, another name on a list, another person just trying to get through the week, the day, without anything falling apart. Meanwhile, somewhere out there, people with actual influence, people who run companies, who sit on boards, who have built entire ecosystems around themselves, are clocking your moves quietly, carefully, the way you watch weather rolling in on the horizon, not sure yet if it's going to pass by or turn into something enormous. You think you are small. They think you are a question they cannot stop asking themselves. Here's the thing nobody tells you about people who have actually made it somewhere. They don't just watch predictable people. They don't spend their limited attention on someone who blends into the wallpaper. High status people, the ones who have built something real. They have got radar for exactly one thing. Potential that hasn't cashed itself in yet. And you, whether you know it or not, you have been pinging that radar for a while now. Think about the last time you walked into a space, work, a gathering, whatever, and something just felt off in a way you couldn't explain. Conversations paused for a half a second. Someone straightened up in their chair. Someone else looked away in a little too close, a little too fast, like they have been caught staring. You probably brushed it off, told yourself you were being paranoid, that people are just busy, that nothing was actually happening. But something was happening. You walked in and the air rearranged itself around you and you called it awkward when really it was recognition. Recognition. Because here is what's actually going on. People who have built any kind of real status develop an instinct over time. They learn to read energy before titles, read survival before success, read resilience before achievement. They have been burned by polished people who look great on paper and fold the second things get hard. So they stop trusting the shine. They start watching for something else entirely. The quiet ones who have clearly been through something and are still standing here, still functioning, still moving forward without making a big show of it. That's you. That's exactly what they clocked. Let's be honest about your road for a second, because it matters here. Nobody handed you your opportunities on a plate. You had to go dig them out with your hands, with your bare hands, one uncomfortable conversation, one late night, one moment of doing the hard thing when the easy thing was right there waiting. Nobody built you a safety net. So you became your own. On your own, you always was. Nobody explained the rules to you clearly, so you figured them out through trial and a whole lot of error. And now here's the twist that should honestly make you laugh a little. The same kind of people who used to walk right past you without a second glance are the ones tracking your path now. Like you're some rare specimen they are trying to figure out. Because status doesn't actually care about where you started. It cares about where you are headed. And lately, you have been headed somewhere that makes comfortable, average, playing it safe people nervous, while it absolutely fascinates the people who have actually built something themselves. You stepped into a lane nobody handed you and made it yours through sheer stubbornness. Yeah, through stubbornness. You made moves without having the whole picture. And somehow you still looked like you knew exactly where you were going. That confidence, uncertainty, that is the single most magnetic thing a human being can radiate. And you have been doing it without even realizing it's a superpower. It's a real superpower. You know what else gets noticed? How you never fell apart in public. You don't rant. You don't beg for people to validate you. You don't sit there explaining yourself to people who were never capable of understanding you in the first place. You just keep moving, quiet, steady, unshaken on the surface, even when it's chaos underneath. People who have been climbed high enough to actually see the whole board, they recognize that instantly because they know exactly how rare it is. Most people crumble long before they ever get anywhere close to where they are trying to go. You haven't. And that alone puts you on a very short list of people worth paying attention to. Here is something that might catch you off guard a little. Some of these high-status people are not just watching you passively, like a background entertainment. They are actually waiting on you, waiting to see what your next move is, waiting to see whether you step forward into what you clearly could become, or whether you shrink back into what feels safe and familiar. They are waiting to see if you finally wake up to the amount of weight you are actually carrying, because right now you are walking around like you don't even realize you are holding something heavy, something valuable. And listen, the world didn't overlook you by accident. It wasn't hiding you out of cruelty. It was setting a stage, building tension, creating this long stretch of quiet before something loud happens. Because people who have been at the top long enough develop a sense of exactly this kind of thing. They can feel when someone's about to break through long before it's obvious to anyone else. Sometimes even before it's obvious to the person it's happening to. You have basically been walking around like a plot twist nobody's read yet. And they don't know the details on what you're capable of. But they know something's coming. They know they can feel that your story isn't a quite predictable one. There is a chapter coming that's going to surprise people. And somewhere out there, people already sense it. And here is the part that should genuinely shake you a little if you actually let it land. Some of these people are rooting for you, genuinely hoping you make it. And some of them, if we're being honest, are a little uneasy about it, maybe even hoping you don't. But every single one of them is watching. That's not a quiet, empty kind of attention. That's real. There are eyes on your path from angles you cannot even picture. There are conversations happening in rooms you have never set foot in, where people are trying to figure out how someone with your kind of intensity showed up seemingly out of nowhere. And maybe right now, you are sitting there thinking, that's not me. I don't feel powerful. I don't feel special. I feel I'm just trying to get through my week without losing my mind. And that's exactly why they're watching. Because you are real in a world absolutely drowning in performance. You are raw in a world of carefully curated versions of people. You are unpredictable in a world that runs almost entirely on scripts everyone follows without thinking twice. And you are rising in a world where most people plant their feet and never move again. Your presence disrupts the narrative people are comfortable with. Your existence quietly challenges expectations without you even trying to. Your energy gets tracked because it simply doesn't fit into any of the boxes people are used to sorting others into. You think you are just trying to survive your day. Meanwhile, somewhere out there, someone's watching you like you might be about to flip the entire board over. And you genuinely have no idea, no clue. Here's something wild to sit with. Your smallest, most forgettable decisions are being noticed and magnified through lenses you will probably never even know exist. Analyzed by people who calculate everything, who plan every move 3 steps ahead, who don't take a single action without running the numbers first. And then there's you, moving with this raw, unfiltered instinct that constantly throws their whole calculated approach off balance. You have probably had moments where you made a call that even you didn't fully plan out, and somehow it landed exactly right. That's the part that drives calculated people a little crazy, because they live and die by patterns and predictability. And you're something closer to controlled chaos with a clear direction. You shift the entire mood of a room just by existing in it, without saying a single word. And that unpredictability is exactly why people with status cannot stop watching. You are the puzzle they cannot solve. What most people don't understand is that this kind of presence doesn't come from comfort. It comes from survival. You build your backbone somewhere quiet, somewhere nobody was clapping for you. You build resilience in the dark, in the stretches of time nobody else witnessed. You build whatever confidence you have now through situations that would have completely swallowed a lot of other people whole. And when a person gets forged like that, they carry themselves differently for the rest of their life. You carry history in the way you look at things. You carry old scars in your posture, even if nobody could point to exactly where. You carry stories nobody around you actually knows. And somehow everyone around you can still feel something shift when you walk by, even if they couldn't explain what it is, if you asked them directly. Let's be real for a second, because this deserves saying out loud. You have probably always known somewhere deep down that you were not built for some simple, quiet, predictable life. Not because you were chasing attention, because life kept handing you experiences that just didn't match what the ordinary path looks like. Life kept dropping you into situations where you had to grow faster than felt fair. Think on your feet, adapt on a dime, react before you were ready. Life kept putting you right on the edge over and over until standing on that edge started to feel almost normal to you. And people who have climbed high themselves, they respect edge walkers. They respect people who didn't collapse under pressure that would have flattened most others. They pay very close attention to anyone who seems to actually thrive in the exact conditions that break other people, because deep down they know those are the people who end up rising the highest. And here is something you have probably never said out loud to a single soul. You intimidate people who technically have more status than you, but far less actual strength. People with more money than you, but a fraction of your resilience. People with more connections than you, but nowhere near the sense of purpose you carry. And the reason they watch you is that you remind them of something they lost in themselves a long time ago. You represent a hunger they no longer have to have access to. You represent a kind of courage they used to need, but somewhere along the way traded away for comfort. You represent an authenticity a lot of successful people quietly gave up in exchange for status. You shake their sense of certainty just by being exactly who you are, and they genuinely cannot look away from it. Have you ever wondered why certain people act a little strange around you for no obvious reason? Why some people treat you like a threat, even when you haven't done a single thing to warrant it? Why there is tension in a room even when you are just standing there being quiet? It's because your presence, who you are, your presence exposes something true. And truth makes people uncomfortable. Your existence forces people to quietly confront their own limitations, whether they want it or not. Your energy reminds them of who they secretly pretend to be versus who they actually are underneath it all. And high status people are absolutely not immune to that. If anything, they feel it even more sharply because they have spent years building an image, and something in you cuts right through images. They can sense when someone has the potential to eventually surpass whatever they were expecting from them. They can sense when a trajectory doesn't quite match a current position, when someone's clearly headed somewhere much bigger than where they are currently standing. And you, whether you feel it or not, you move like someone who's about to leap, not someone taking a careful little step. They are watching your path closely because they know that the moment you stop underestimating yourself, the moment you stop second-guessing your own voice, the moment you stop making yourself smaller than you actually are, you are going to walk into rooms you never even imagined existed. You are going to move through spaces other people simply could not handle. You are going to rise in a way that will not be quietly explained away or denied. They are studying the moment right before the shift happens, the moment right before the breakthrough, the moment right before that quiet voice in your own head finally says, wait, everything I went through wasn't random. It was preparation. People with real influence are watching you because your story clearly isn't following the ordinary arc everyone expects. It builds tension, like something significant is getting ready to happen. And they can feel the weight of that building even if you can't quite feel it yourself yet. You think you're unnoticed. You think you're unimportant. Just quietly living your life in the background. But you're actually a whole conversation piece. A rising variable nobody's quite figured out how to categorize. A developing force people are keeping tabs on because something in you is clearly getting ready to break loose. And it's not because you are small, it's because something in you is getting ready to erupt. And the strange part is you are still walking around trying to bump into anyone, trying not to take up too much space, to make everyone happy, comfortable, trying to keep everything calm and quiet, while your whole presence is basically shouting transformation and elevation without your permission. Have you ever stopped in the middle of your day and feel this strange pressure right in your chest, like something's shifting but you cannot quite name it? That's not anxiety trying to trip you up. That's your entire life quietly rearranging itself behind the scenes. That's your path widening out whether you can see it yet or not. That's room being made for a version of yourself you haven't fully stepped into. Yeah. High status people can sense that kind of momentum in others almost instinctively before it even becomes visible to the rest of the world. And you right now are carrying momentum that genuinely doesn't match your current surroundings. You are carrying presence that outpaces your current circumstances. You are carrying potential that's clearly beyond the level you happen to be standing on at this exact moment. And they always feel that mismatch, sometimes more sharply than you feel it yourself. That's exactly why some of them stare a bit too long. Why some of them quietly keep tabs from a careful distance. Why certain people around you suddenly act a little cold, a little awkward, or oddly curious about the smallest things you do. You are not random to them. You are not background noise to them. You are not invisible. You are a developing storm they have been quietly tracking for a while now. And here is something a little uncomfortable to sit with. Your own humility sometimes blinds you to the actual impact you are already having. You think you are just existing day to day, but you are actually influencing people around you without even trying. You think you are just surviving, but you are actually leading by example, whether anyone says it out loud or not. You think you are just figuring things out as you go, but you are actually inspiring people who will probably never openly admit that to your face. There are people with real status, real connections, real reputation, quietly watching the way you keep putting one foot in front of the others. Even on the days you are exhausted, even on the days you feel completely uncomfortable, unsure of yourself, even on the days nobody around you fully understands the weight you are carrying. That you don't quit, that you don't let the world completely break you, even when it's had plenty of chances to. They also notice how you operate without much of a support system, how you move without a real safety net most of the time, how you think for yourself instead of constantly outsourcing your decisions to whoever's loudest in the room, how you don't chase approval and don't perform for anyone's benefit. Do you understand how rare that actually is? How intimidating that is to people who build their entire identity on being validated by others. People who have reached real levels of status are not actually fascinated by perfection. Perfection is common. It's manufactured. It's everywhere. What genuinely fascinates them is authenticity, greed, your gift. Someone who keeps rising without asking anyone's permission first. You are being observed because you represent a different kind of person entirely. Someone whose confidence didn't come from constant praise. someone whose strength didn't come from comfort, someone whose clarity didn't come from being carefully guided every step of the way. Everything you have, you build from the inside, mostly in silence, mostly without an audience. And high status people can sense that instantly. It registers like a quiet alarm somewhere in the back of their mind. They cannot always explain why they notice you, but they notice the way you carry yourself, like you have survived things that don't even have proper names. The way you talk, like you have tasted real consequences and still managed to keep your dignity intact through all of it. The way you look at the world, like you know exactly how difficult it can get, and you are still choosing every single day, choosing to keep going anyway. And that right there is the real reason your path is under this kind of quiet observation. You are unpredictable in the best sense. You are resilient in a way that cannot be faked. You are not for sale, not moved by fears, not chasing status for its own sake, and not dependent on anyone else's validation to know your own worth. That combination makes you genuinely rare, and rare things get watched closely. Some people admire what you are building. Some people genuinely, quietly envy it. Some people are honestly a little afraid of what you might eventually become. But every single one of them is paying attention, whether they admit it or not. And here is maybe the wildest part of all of this. You are only operating on a fraction of what you are actually capable of right now. Let me stop here. You are moving through your days with maybe a tenth of your real power showing, and even that small fraction is already shaking people who have spent years building a reputation for being completely unshakable. That's what's actually being watched. Not just who you are right now, but who you are clearly becoming without even trying that hard yet. You are not even close to your final form, and you are already disrupting people who have spent decades carefully building their status, their networks, their whole public image, while you are just over here trying to get through your day, trying to figure out your next step. And still somehow they cannot stop watching. You are not predictable enough to be underestimated forever. You are not polished enough to be quietly dismissed. You are not soft enough to be easily controlled. And you are not loud enough to be reduced to some easy label. You live in this strange, powerful middle space, quiet but undeniably intense, humble but somehow intimidating, uncertain in the details, but deeply aligned underneath it all. That's why people with real status genuinely don't know what category to put you in. And that uncertainty is exactly why they cannot stop tracking your journey. So, here is what I actually want you to walk away with. You are not chasing anyone's approval, and you are not performing for an audience. You are just showing up as honestly as you know how, day after day. And that honesty is hitting harder than any performance ever could. People are watching not because you are falling or failing or lost or stuck. They are watching because something in you has clearly been waking up. A hunger, a focus, a calm that's settling into the chaos. A quiet, undeniable kind of confidence that doesn't need to raise its voice to be heard. And the people who have built a real influence, they don't ignore that kind of thing. They track it, they talk about it in rooms you will probably never enter, because somewhere deep down, they already sense that what you haven't fully accepted about yourself yet, that you are going to outgrow the room you are currently standing in. And when that happens, it's not going to be quiet, and it's not going to ask anyone's permission. Yeah.